Welcome to part 3 of I Survived a Heart Attack. I was counting it up today. It's been, as of today, just 60 days ago, 62 days ago, something like that. So if you're just finding this channel and you're just finding this video, go back and watch from episode, the first episode on the what happened. And today we pick up with the morning that we're going to make, we've made a decision. And that's where we ended yesterday. And the decision is to go with the heart catheterization. We don't know at this time what's going on. I think that as I was recalling this this time here at the first week of April, that this morning I'd had a sleepless night. We knew what, or we had, and then we knew what I knew what was going to happen this morning. I talked to the cardiologist, and it just was apparent I needed to do the heart catheterization. We need to find out what's going on. Even though I was comfortable, wasn't in any pain, didn't have any shortness of breath at this time. But important to realize, I did not know the condition of what was causing this problem, which I was about to find out. So around 11 o'clock that morning, they came to get me from the heart cath. There was a couple people, and a girl and a gentleman, and they come in, and she's got a clipboard in her hand. She goes, "Mr. Ladden." She looks at me, and then she looks back at the guy over here next to me, the curtain there, and she looked a little, and I said, "Yeah," and she looks back at me and goes, and was a little startled. As it turned out, she laughingly said, "How old are you? You don't look old enough for this to be happening." I said, "Well, I'm 60, and I'm thinking, I have 4 or 6 other people, directly friends, that have had this. One has had open heart, and the other, maybe I was hanging out with the wrong people, but they had stents, etc. at that point in their lives, and they were younger than me. They were in their 50s. One was in their 40s, and so. This is not an uncommon occurrence, obviously, in today's age. So, they were very positive, and they said, "Oh, you're going to be in good hands." And I'm feeling really at peace right now. And, my daughter had prayed about this. She knows me. Look, going to a doctor is not something I would ever do, let alone go to a hospital or an emergency room. This was huge. So there was obviously, as I mentioned, what I experienced the day before with that ache right here was huge, and I knew I better have someone take a look at this. And I worried about dying. I did, because I knew if it was a heart attack, it's not something you want to mess with. At least I knew that. We come down. I have to wait. The procedure before me, these were like back to back to back, like all morning long, and it's around 11ish, 11:30ish, something like that. And so I'm waiting, and they wheel a lady out, and she was kind of quiet. She looked great. I think she was relieved, and they wheel me in. And I mean, they get right to work. They're putting everything together, and they get you all ready, and they talk about what they're going to do. And I think there were 2 nurses and a doctor. Now, as I'm coming in, the doctor says, "Now, see, he's looked at my charts. He's also looked at that this echocardiogram they took that morning, like 2 hours earlier." And he says to me, "Well, I really think you're going to have 2 to 3 blockages. I'm assuming because of the way, I don't know what it is. It's his opinion. I had 2 or 3. And he says, at that point, we go in and look at that. We usually recommend open heart surgery. It's because for younger people, that's more effective. It's better for you, etc." And I'm just going, "Oh, no, meaning I'm going to go from here to an open heart. I don't want that, I just thinking, no, I prefer the stent. It sounds like this is what I'm prepared for this morning. Do the stent." But he says, "Okay, well, we'll go in and we'll figure it out." So he just kind of, he knew what he was going to recommend if he went in and it recalled for whatever. But I had this complete peace. I just put it in God's hand, to be honest, because right now this is facing my mortality. This is truly a moment. I had an experience about 1.5 years ago on the island of Kauai when I was on Hawaii, when they were shooting when a missile alert came that there was an inbound missile to Hawaii. And I remember thinking, if this hits the island, we're done. And that was the thing with the Korea thing. And I remember kind of honestly thinking, am I going to die here, And I mean, that was all a whole different thing. But I did face that. I made calls to my kids, got my daughter on the phone. And we're facing that thought of this could be our final conversation. These are weird, surreal experiences that happen. So today, though, on this day, I should say, and I'm facing, okay, this is a heart catheterization. There is inherent risk with this. As a matter of fact, earlier that morning, while I'm waiting, and I don't usually like to talk about this, but there was a code blue in the heart cath. It comes out over the loudspeaker, and I thought, well, code blue, and I looked it up on my phone. That's a cardiac arrest. So these procedures aren't without risk, obviously. So they begin. They had started the IVs and stuff, and they gave me a drug. It's supposed to. Now you're wide awake during this thing, which I actually liked. I guess it was feeling like I knew what was going on, and if the end came, I guess you just whatever. So they started giving me this drug. Now I didn't really feel much from it, but it must be pretty good because I was pretty whatever. And then they begin they go up through it was the groin. I didn't question it. I was hoping I could use the arm. I just felt better, but I was going to go through the groin. And they said this will be you'll feel a little pain or whatever, but it'll only be momentary. He says, okay. And when they put that in, there was like, and my leg got a little stiff and whatever, but then it was over. And they began. So at first, I guess they shoot the dye in, and then these cameras above you, and it's moving around. And at one point, it comes up right here. At this point, I'm just sitting there, I'm listening to them talk, and I'm everything's they're saying they're doing this and that. Yeah, do this, and this camera comes up like right here, and it's it's like shooting down, getting the pictures of the vascular system. And I remember turning my head a little bit like this to stay out of the way of the camera. And it didn't seem long, but maybe it was 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes of that. I don't know. And he says, okay, Phil, I found the problem, and I'm going to fix it. And I'm laying there going, oh, my goodness. Because during this time, I'm thinking, am I going to have a heart attack? Am I just going to die? You say some prayers. I had faith, though, in what I believe. And I did believe that, that's my thing, and I was ready. I kept my eyes closed, thinking, okay, if it happens, I'll just, people have got to have courage, you got to have faith that things are going to be okay. So he goes and he says he's going to fix it. I feel fantastic, and so then they go in and they say, okay, now you're going to feel a little pain right here, but not, nothing shouldn't be too bad. And he's telling me what I'm going to start feeling. Because they're going to go in, they found this block. Well, at this point, again, I don't know what they found. He found that's when he's finding this 99% blockage on the main artery of the heart, the lower anterior descending artery of the heart, which supplies the majority of the blood flow to the majority of the heart. And so he starts it, and he says, okay, you're going to feel a little discomfort, a little pain. This pain was the exact spot I'd felt the ache the day before. Exact. And then it got more a little intense. And I said, yeah, I'm feeling exactly what I felt yesterday, and it's getting a little bit worse. He says, yeah, it'll only be a few more seconds, 30 more seconds. Okay, all right, so he knows I should be feeling, I guess, this. I remain calm, and then it subsided. And then he's telling the nurse, say, okay, I'm going to need this side, this and that, and they're talking about which stent, and he says, we're going to insert the stent now. Go in there, I still feel, he says, okay, you're going to feel a little discomfort again, blah, 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 and I did, a little discomfort, and within a minute or so, it's done. Okay, we're finished. And then they start wrapping things up, and I'm sitting there going, it's done. I mean, this is crazy. I still don't know exactly what they fixed at this moment, but I am feeling so relieved and so thankful, amazing thankfulness. So as they're finishing up, he's got to, close off this artery. That's amazing the way they do all that, because the femoral artery, that was nothing. Everything goes very quickly. This is boom, boom, boom. They're all working together. Next thing you know, they're wheeling me out. Before they wheel me out, the doctor comes around to this side of me. He shows me the picture. He says, this thing is hanging on by the thread. You see that right there. And it looked like a kink. Just like that. I mean, tight. I said, the first thought I had was, how did you open that? How did you get through that? One of the nurses says, oh, we have our ways. And she says, it's magic. And, it's microscopic stuff that they go in, and then they, and he says, listen, it's going to be extremely important that you take your medication. You don't miss a day of it, because this can start to reclog if you just miss one dosage. He made it very clear. It was aspirin and a blood thinner, etc. I said, don't worry. I said, this is great. He says, yeah, you've got a new heart now. He says, you dodged a bullet. said this was a major thing, and 99% blockage. So I'm feeling such gratitude and excitement that I've survived. He did show that there are other deposits that were in the other arteries, but he said nothing that was serious that we needed. So prayer was answered there. That I didn't have multiple blockages that required bypass or other stents at that point. So I get back to the room. I am like ecstatic. I've not felt this kind of joy, gratitude, thankfulness maybe in my life, because I feel like I'm still alive and the problem has been fixed. He fixed the problem. So obviously I made a quick text to everyone that was fine. I said, all done. And I told them what they found, and then I get on the phone with my daughter and my son, and we're just so thankful. Everybody's happy and so thankful. I've been given a new life, a lease, so to speak, more days to live if I take care of myself, and that's probably what I realized more than anything. Comically, my first meal in like a day and a half was that evening. It came from the cardiac diet. I was put on the cardiac diet. The meal that came was a roast drenched in brown, saltless or low salt gravy, cooked carrots, a little pint of 1% or 2% milk, and a fruit cup with sugary syrup in it, sort of deal. Now, I've done enough reading over the years, because in one way I had somewhat prepared. I knew I had a high probability, if I didn't take care of myself, of having a heart attack. But I knew this, what I was being fed. Oh, and some mashed potatoes, and again, it was doused in that brown gravy. This was not a cardiac. I knew this was not healthy, but I ate about half to 3/4. It tasted so good. First food I'd had, like I said, in a while. And but I knew that going forward, I was going to have to make some changes if I didn't want to end back up what I had just been through, or worse yet, maybe not been as lucky and die of heart disease. So the cardiac doc comes in the next morning, who I talked to the previous morning, and he had a smile on his face. He said, "How you feeling, Phil?" And I said, "I feel great." And then I jokingly talked to him about, I apologized for giving him a hard time the previous morning about, I said, "I'm sorry, I was kind of giving you well, I don't know. I was trying to get you not to do what we needed to. You knew what was needed to be done." And I said, "It saved my life." And I said, "Of course," I said, it's amazing what they found and whatever." He says, "Yeah." He says, he mentioned, he said, you're very lucky. He said, had you had a heart attack or whatever, I didn't get that point, because I thought, in a way I kind of did, but he basically said, had you gone into cardiac arrest or had this shut off, he said, you would not have survived. This is the widowmaker. This is a 99%. They could not have acted quickly enough. This is the one that when it goes, it's the sudden death attack because of its nature. Where it's at, the blood flow cuts off, and it's a very quick thing. So once again, we had a great little talk that morning, and he was just saying, "Hey, I really anticipate you're gonna be great. You're gonna do fine, and you'll be able to go home tomorrow." And he says, "You'll be able to go home today, because this is the day after." And he just gave me some basic things. He says, "Okay, we'll see you in about a week or 2 weeks, and we'll go from there." Then a couple other doctors come in, they all have to check you off and check you out and that type. We'll wrap up this episode. Obviously, so fortunate to be alive at that point. Just so fortunate that I survived this, and as I came to learn, I'm, no matter what happens, I was in better shape now or then than I was the day prior. The thought crossed my mind, what if I had been stubborn as I can tend to be and said, I don't want to do that heart cath. I just thank goodness I was willing to do what we needed to have done. Well, going forward then the last part of this surviving of the heart attack will be the new life and what's happened to me post in the last 60 days and the changes I've made, because I understand the importance of it, and so again, to encourage you that before this were to happen to you, or if it has happened to you, I just want to super encourage you. There are things you can do that not only can lead to a happy, healthy life, but also reverse any heart disease. I firmly believe what the research is showing in that right now. And lastly, again, as the What's Up Boomer channel begins, I've gone through a number of thoughts about how I move forward with this, and one thing that's clear is if we don't have our health, if we don't take care of ourselves, these last years will not be as good a years as they could be. And certainly I like to think now that the best years of my life are ahead of me. And they could have been without this incident, but it took this incident to get me, I think, to make the changes I should have stuck with that I tried to do in the past. But to make those changes, and to the level that I've made them in the last 2 months, I should have done it earlier. And then again, the future is optimistic, despite the fact that I'm not ready for retirement on a number of different grounds. We'll talk more about that, and you'll join me in this journey. So thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next and last episode on the Heart Attack Survival series, so to speak, the playlist. Got my little handy, whatever they doohickey that's going to end this video.